At a 3M manufacturing plant, employees kept reporting the same bizarre thing: a doorway you could feel but not see. A real-life, invisible force field. That's what we'll be talking about this week on The Internet Says It's True. Welcome back to The Internet Says It's True, where every week we learn something that sounds made up but is really true, part of the WCBE podcast experience. My name is Michael Kent. Welcome back. This is episode 266. This week is another brand new episode and another guestless episode. So there won't be a guest. It's also going to be the finale episode of Season 9 of this podcast. Sorry, didn't mean to scare you too much there. It's coming into the holiday season. I've been absolutely slammed with other projects. You can tell from my voice. And to be honest, I need a break. So a part of that is regrouping, writing some future episodes for you. And so while this is a new episode, we'll just be playing the quiz with you, the listener, and then we'll be taking a break for the next 5 weeks. So you will not hear my voice again until January 5th, 2026, when we'll be back with another new episode in the beginning of Season 10. I have heard from a lot of people who've picked up their copy of the Internet Says It's True book as a holiday gift for their loved ones. Super excited about that. It's actually a really great gift because it was written to be a gift book. Share the gift of knowledge this winter with your friends and family. That's available in the show notes or wherever you like to buy your books. Just search for The Internet Says It's True. Also, tell your significant other that you want a new t-shirt or a mug for the holidays. You can find The Internet Says It's True t-shirts and mugs on our website. Just click merch. And finally, if you enjoy the show, you want to show your support, leave us a review. So this week's story is one that's been on my to-do list to look into for quite a while. It fits the podcast because it sounds absolutely made up, but it looks like there's actually something to this one. Let's start by talking about the science. Static electricity has a way of making ordinary places feel strange. It's one of the few scientific phenomena that you can encounter without seeing it. You feel it tug on your arm hair. You hear it snap in your ear or a sense of pressure in the air before anything touches you. Most of us only experience it when we shuffle across carpet in the winter or peel a sweater over our head. Do you remember that thing where you would take a balloon and rub it on your sweater and then hold it above your hair and your hair would rise up and stick to it? Static electricity can deflect dust in midair. It can make tape glow in the dark. Or, in one of the strangest cases ever documented, create what workers described as an invisible barrier inside a 3M manufacturing facility. Before we get to that doorway, it's important to understand the kind of environments that make static electricity misbehave. Most of the weirdest static stories come from places where materials move quickly through dry air. In the 1960s, companies like BASF and Ampex were producing massive quantities of magnetic tape. In their coating rooms, long plastic films unspooled across rollers at high speed, picking up charge like a conveyor belt inside a giant Van de Graaff generator. Old BASF technical bulletins describe how dust in those rooms acted strangely, drifting away from the charged film instead of settling on it. One engineer even noticed that documents left near the coating line clung to surfaces like static magnets. These weren't supernatural effects, they were the everyday physics of friction, charge separation, and low humidity. Dust acting weird is one thing, but static electricity can do much, much more. The U.S. Chemical Safety Board has documented cases where the static buildup ignited airborne powders and caused industrial fires. One of the clearest examples was the 2003 explosion at West Pharmaceutical Services when charged plastic dust above a suspended ceiling ignited after months of accumulation. Static electricity is more than a nuisance. In the wrong conditions, can be catastrophic. But most of the time, its surprises are simply strange. And 3M, perhaps more than any other American manufacturer, has a long history of encountering that strangeness. 3M is famous for Post-it notes, Scotch tape, and N95 masks. But behind those products lies a century of engineering with plastics, adhesives, and films. Those materials are the perfect breeding ground for exotic static effects. In the late 1950s, the company opened its Hutchinson, Minnesota plant for magnetic tape production. Retired 3M engineer Robert C. Hansen once described its coating rooms at an IEEE conference as, quote, dry, hot, and noisy, with charges exceeding several tens of thousands of volts, end quote. Workers there sometimes felt a cushion of air near freshly coated film because the static field actually pushed against them. The air wasn't warm or cold, it was just simply thick. It felt thick. Hansen said the sensation reminded some workers of leaning into a strong breeze, except the air was perfectly still. Those stories set the foundation for an incident that would later become one of the best-known pieces of 3M folklore. It took place in the late 1980s at a Midwest materials facility where the company manufactured advanced coated films. The story circulated quietly at first, mentioned by engineers who had worked at the plant or by consultants who had been called in to troubleshoot. Then it appeared in professional circles, referenced indirectly in ESD Association symposiums and contamination control seminars, and by the 1990s, it had taken on a life all its own. Workers in one area of the plant began reporting a strange sensation when walking through a particular doorway. Some said it felt like pressure against their shoulders. Others said it felt like pushing through a sheet of invisible plastic. One technician joked that it felt like walking into warm jello. And perhaps most intriguingly, carts rolled through the doorway seemed to slow down as they were meeting resistance. These reports weren't dramatic. No one was knocked over, no one was shocked. It was simply odd enough that people talked about it in break rooms and compared notes. At first, supervisors dismissed it as imagination. But when enough workers described that exact same sensation, the company brought in a contamination control consultant. Static problems often cause dust issues, so the consultant was there for a different concern entirely. But when he walked through that same doorway, he immediately felt the resistance himself. This wasn't a psychological effect or a story passed around until it became self-fulfilling. It was real. To understand what was happening, the consultant used an electrostatic field meter. These devices measure voltage gradients in the air. The readings across the doorway fluctuated from several kilovolts to more than 15 kilovolts, depending on production activity in the room. And the reason quickly became clear. On one side of the doorway, enormous rolls of plastic film were being unwound and coated at a very high speed, and this generated massive static fields. On the other side was a climate-controlled room with grounded stainless steel equipment and ionized air. And between the two rooms, an electrostatic gradient formed. The human body, being conductive, felt this gradient physically. Workers passing through the doorway were essentially bridging two different electrical environments. The air around them polarized, creating a subtle but unmistakable feeling of pressure. This effect is well known in physics. When a strong electrostatic field meets a grounded object, the field lines concentrate, pulling ions in the air and creating what is sometimes called corona wind or electrohydrodynamic flow. Let's stick with corona wind. It can be strong enough to ruffle hair or tug clothing. In extreme cases, it can oppose small mechanical forces. And that explains why rolling carts slowed down. The air wasn't thicker, the forces at play simply made it feel that way. And that's where the first half of the mystery reaches its peak. Workers weren't just feeling a weird tingling or noticing dust sticking to walls. They were running into a force field that felt like, at least for a moment, like a real physical barrier. But while the explanation for this doorway turned out to be measurable and scientifically grounded, the strangest static phenomenon at 3M wasn't this. There was something else at the same facility that baffled engineers even more than a doorway that pushed back. We'll be right back. If you love listening to this podcast every week and you want to show your support, that would mean a great deal to me. You can do that by becoming a Patreon member. We've got members at all levels, whether you want to pledge $1 a month or $10 a month. Just think about the value that you receive from this show. And if you like the histories and the stories that you learn about or the jokes that you hear, and if you think that they're worth it, consider signing up. For that, you get every episode ad-free and a week early, access to bonuses like the unedited videos of the guest appearances, and 20% off all merchandise. You can sign up today at patreon.com/Michael Kent. That's patreon.com/Michael Kent. There was a time that humans used 100% organic products as healing balms and moisturizers for their skin. Well, I've partnered with an awesome company that wants to get back to those times. Fatco sells organic and responsibly made tallow-based skincare products. For centuries, humans used tallow in skin moisturizers and healing balms, but unfortunately, the topical application of these fats seemed to stop around the same time that animal fats stopped being considered part of a healthy diet. A lot of modern skincare products do more harm than good by stripping your skin of its natural oils. Let's change that. You can try them out now at fatco.com and get 15% off your order by using my promo code INTERNET. Go to theinternetsaysitstrue.com/deals for the link.
I'm John DeSando, host of Back Talk. This podcast is an extension of the long-running, award-winning movie review show, It's Movie Time. Back Talk features additional content and banter with guests about new movies. If you want more insight and information about what's playing now in theaters and online, find Back Talk at the WCBE Podcast Experience on WCBE.org. You'll be happy you did.
We're living through the most dynamic time in human history, and what we do as leaders matter. We are the ones that create the leverage to shift directions of our companies, our nonprofits, and our communities. As a leader or an emerging leader, please join me for a dynamic conversation with top thought leaders, academics, and executives to learn more about how to elevate your leadership. I'm Maureen Metcalf. Join us at the WCBE Podcast Experience at WCBE.org.
What if your kid could open a box and step into another century? With History Unboxed, they can. Each month, a new time-traveling adventure arrives at your doorstep, packed with hands-on projects, stories, recipes, and learning has never been more fun. No screens, no boring textbooks, just immersive, age-appropriate fun that makes history stick. Whether they're mummifying an apple like an Egyptian, or crafting medieval armor, or exploring the music of the Harlem Renaissance, they're not just learning about history, they're living it. Used by families, homeschoolers, and educators across the country, History Unboxed makes the past come alive with every box. I think it's amazing that I'm personally in my 40s and I'm still learning history every week. I wasn't interested in history as a kid, and I think that's because I didn't have something that made it fun. Things have changed since then. History Unboxed makes learning history engaging, fun, and hands-on in the comfort of your own home. So if your child loves to ask why and what was it like, this is the perfect way to fuel that curiosity. Ready to time travel? Sign up today by clicking the deals link in the show notes.
Hey, I'm Cliff Baumgardner.
And I'm Harrison Stewart.
If you're like us, you probably grew up watching the Discovery Channel classic, Mythbusters.
From rocket cars to chicken cannons, Mythbusters proved there's no question too big, too small, or too ridiculous to put to the test.
Now we're going back to rewatch the show from episode 1, and we want you to follow along. Join us as we revisit every single myth, moment, experiment, and explosion from throughout the show's legendary 14 seasons. Subscribe now so you don't miss one.
Welcome back. Let's pick up the thread of static electricity at 3M, but this time with an incident that didn't just create a physical sensation, it created a measurable, alarming outcome. This event takes us into the late 1990s at another 3M materials facility where engineers were dealing with sporadic false alarms from ESD monitoring equipment, electrostatic discharge. The problem appeared random. Several times a week, sensors would trip, indicating that a workstation had exceeded static limits even though no one was touching it. At first, they suspected equipment malfunction. Then they suspected that workers were bypassing grounding straps or that faulty shoes were the cause, but every investigation hit a dead end. The phenomenon drew enough attention that 3M brought in an ESD Association consultant, Charles Gerke, whose work on high voltage anomalies in film plants was widely respected. Gerke's own notes, which he presented at the 2001 ESD Symposium, contain a cryptic reference to, quote, airborne charge vortices in environments with exceptionally low humidity and high film contact speeds. That phrase sounds like science fiction, but it refers to pockets of ionized air that move unpredictably, similar to like tiny whirlwinds created by thermal gradients. If these vortices intersect with grounded equipment, they can cause momentary voltage spikes. Gerke's analysis at the facility revealed that the false alarms happened most often during overnight shifts when temperature controls were adjusting and air handlers cycled more aggressively. The airflow created by these shifts interacted with charged film in this coding room that was adjacent to the monitoring area. The film would build charge, release it into the air as ions, and those ions would drift up unpredictably until they hit a grounded surface. And when they did, sensors picked it up as a static event. This discovery led 3M to install directional ionizing blowers to neutralize charge at the source. After that, the false alarm stopped entirely. The reason that complicated detail matters is because it shows how, at 3M facilities, static electricity can escape the boundaries of machinery and interact with the environment in these surprising ways. The infamous invisible barrier wasn't just an isolated oddity, it was part of a larger tapestry of unusual electrostatic behavior encountered throughout this company's history. One of the more human aspects of this invisible barrier story has to do with how workers reacted. When the consultant first investigated the doorway, several employees admitted that they avoided the door when possible because it felt weird. Not dangerous, not uncanny, just weird. One operator said she preferred going around because the sensation made her think of pressure changes before a thunderstorm. Another compared it to standing beside a big balloon as it charges your hair before it touches you. These reactions reflect a phenomenon known in psychology as proprioceptive feedback. When the body encounters unfamiliar external force, even a subtle one, the brain reaches for the closest analogy that it can understand. The invisible barrier became a curiosity among employees. Some avoided it, others insisted newcomers come and walk through it just to experience what all the fuss was about. Once ionizers and grounding controls were installed, the effect vanished instantly. And that's the interesting part. The membrane-like sensation didn't fade, it didn't lessen, it just disappeared entirely because the charge disappeared entirely. The moment the gradient was equalized, there was nothing exotic left to feel. And this aligns exactly with what physics predicts. Remove the charge, eliminate the effect. Static electricity can reveal itself in other ways. Sometimes it's visual, like the blue flashes described by 3M scientist Went O. Young in the 1970s, when Scotch tape was peeled quickly in dark rooms. Those flashes were an example of triboluminescence, and decades later, in 2008, UCLA researchers discovered that peeling Scotch tape in a vacuum could even produce X-rays. The strange world of static is bigger than most people imagine. And other times, static is tactile. In 3M's reflective sheeting production lines, charged polymer sheets sometimes produced a tingling sensation felt several feet away. One worker compared it to standing in front of an old CRT television. You couldn't see the electricity, but you could feel it pulling slightly at your skin, and sometimes static becomes environmental. Those airborne charge vortices that Gerke documented acted like tiny weather events, drifting unpredictably through the plant. All of these stories highlight how 3M's work with films and adhesives creates perfect conditions for surprising electrostatic behavior. The invisible barrier wasn't a paranormal force, it wasn't a hidden technology, it was the world behaving exactly as physics says it should, but in a situation most of us would never encounter. And that's what makes the story so memorable. It sits at the boundary between everyday experience and the extraordinary. This tale became a part of the company's sort of informal folklore. New engineers heard about the doorway and asked if it still existed or if it could be recreated. Of course, it couldn't. The moment static controls were implemented, it was all gone. But the story lived on because it captured something unusual. It showed how an invisible natural force could become tangible enough for the human body to feel. ESD training programs used the incident as a case study, referring to it simply as the doorway incident. Static electricity shapes the physical environments in ways most people will never notice. But in these rare circumstances, when the charge gets high enough and the conditions are extreme enough, physics becomes something you can feel. The invisible barrier at 3M was one of those moments when nature briefly revealed itself in an unexpected way, and the internet says it's true. It's time for a Yap Yap with me and you, my friends. And today, I'm just going to have you answer out loud wherever you are, especially if you're at work. I want your coworkers to hear you answering these things out loud, especially if you're wearing headphones or AirPods, so that they don't know what's going on and they just hear you yelling, "It's B!" That would be a lot of fun for me. And for this first one, we're going to play for a joke, which means if you get it wrong, you have to tell me a joke. You have to send it to me. whether it be through, X or Facebook. Why did I list X first? That was weird. Instagram, through Patreon, email. You can send me a postcard. I don't care. In the 1980s, this is your question, by the way. In the 1980s, workers at a 3M plant described feeling... I just realized this first question was written for a guest because it's literally about our topic. So there are going to be 4 questions this time. Can you tell I need a break? I need a break. We're going to do 5 weeks off. But here's your joke, by the way, for that one. What did little Johnny's mother do when she caught him zapping the other children with static electricity? She grounded him. Pretty awful. Pretty awful. So we should move on. For question 2. You know what? We'll play for a drink koozie. And I'll send one to you in the mail. I'll send the first 5 people that contact me with the answer for question number 2 a free drink koozie. It says not beer. Great for the holidays. Which common material can produce triboluminescent flashes when fractured or peeled quickly? A. Sugar crystals. B. Wintergreen mints. Or C. Glass. That was sugar crystals, wintergreen mints, or glass. The answer: wintergreen mints. They're well known for producing blue flashes when chewed or crushed in the dark, and that is triboluminescence, like we were talking about in the episode. I can remember doing that in high school. We'd turn off all the lights, and we'd all have our little wintergreen mints, and you kind of crush them. You have to chew them kind of fast with your mouth open. You have to chew them with your back teeth really fast and hard. And I remember the pressure of, is it going to work? Anyway, it does work. It's pretty cool. So if you got that right and you're one of the first 5 people to contact me with your answer, I'll send you a drink koozie. Number 3, same rules, but for a sticker. What everyday material is commonly used in electronics factories to help prevent electrostatic discharge? Is it A, silk fabric, B, aluminum foil, or C, anti-static floor mats? So this is what is being used in electronics factories to help prevent electrostatic discharge. And I will say there are more than the right answer here. There are a multitude of things that companies do. So it's A, silk fabric. One of these is right. B, aluminum foil. Or C, anti-static floor mats. The answer is, of course, anti-static floor mats. Anti-static mats, basically what they do is they dissipate static charge safely from workers and from equipment. Makes them a standard feature in most electronics and semiconductors environments. There are also things that you can put on your shoe that ground you so that you're not going to build up that static, and a lot of different things. But the floor mats was the correct answer. If you get it right, first 5 people get a sticker if you contact me. Question 4, we're going to play for a copy of my new book. The stakes are high on this one. You can get a book that sells for like $17 on Amazon. I'll send the first person to contact me with the right answer. I'll send you an autographed copy for free. What common technology uses electrostatic principles to attract toner onto paper? Okay, so it's using electrostatic to put toner onto paper. Is it A, inkjet printers, B, laser printers, or C, dot matrix printers? First person to give me the right answer to this one is going to get a book. I'm going to send it to you in the mail. It's either inkjet printers, laser printers, or dot matrix printers. The answer: B, laser printers. Laser printers use charged rollers to attract toner particles before fusing them to the page. So there is that one. Someone's going to get a book. Question 5. This is for all the marbles. If you don't get this one right, you're not allowed to listen to the podcast when it picks back up in January. I hope you still listen when we come back, and I hope I have a voice when we come back. Here's the question, and I really want you to contact me with this one, because I was just telling someone, one of the most unusual things about doing a podcast that I did not expect is I see the numbers. I see that people are listening. We've got a great group of listeners, but no one gives you feedback. There's very little feedback outside of some Spotify comments and some YouTube comments. So I want to hear from you. I want to know who's listening. Here's your question. Static electricity made a doorway feel alive in our story today. What's a place in your own life that felt alive to you in some sort of unexpected way? What felt alive to you? That's what I want to know. I can tell you mine right now. I know exactly what it is. It goes back to when I was in college and I was in the Ohio State Marching Band. And Ohio Stadium has an energy to it that feels alive, even when it's empty. Walking into that stadium, there is life in there. And it was built in 1922. It's got a lot of history, and that's a lot of me putting something on to that place. But man, walking in there, you just feel it. You feel the history. So I want to know what you think, though. What's a place in your own life that felt alive to you in an unexpected way? Send that to me. I really will appreciate it. And that, my friends, is the end of our long season 9 of this podcast. So that is all. Thank you so much for playing the game with me. And thanks to listening to all these episodes. I will be back with a brand new episode January 5th, 2026. I hope you all have an amazing Thanksgiving. Have a great Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate at the end of the year. Have a great one. Thanks for listening. Here's a kid whose hair stands on end just because that's the way it is.
Thank you for listening to The Internet Says It's True. To listen to episodes ad-free and a week early, support us on Patreon. You can do that at patreon.com/Michael Kent. If you learned something just now that you didn't already know, go to the Apple Podcast app and leave us a review with 5 stars and a few words. That helps us a ton, because that's how the algorithm works. I don't know what an algorithm is, but just do it. See you next week for a brand new episode of The Internet Says It's True!
The Internet Says It's True would like to thank the Patreon subscribers whose monthly contributions help to make this show possible. Sean Brown, Joshua Endress, Dallas Ray, Bryce Swanson, Eugene Anderson, Jim and Joanne Martin, Mitch and Andrew Joseph Kemplin, and the show's official emperor, Kick Track. The show is written and produced by me, Michael Kent. The theme song is by Finite Music Forge, and all audio clips in this episode are used for education and commentary and used under Fair Use Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107. You can listen to past episodes by searching for The Internet Says It's True wherever you get your podcasts, and you can see bonus content at patreon.com/Michael Kent.